Hello out there from the team here at Blender Tech, that's blendertek.com. We wish you a happy Halloween. In celebration of the upcoming holiday, we're going to show you some tips and tricks in Blender by modeling a pumpkin. In this lesson, you will learn sculpting non-square shapes using mirror and other modifiers, one way of cutting holes in an object quickly and easily, organic modeling with the stem, simple material and texturing work, and using loop cuts. If time permits, in a second part we will include lighting where we'll teach you how to add a candle inside, animate the candle to create an eerie look, and create more advanced materials. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is a little prep work. First I'm going to hide the camera so that it's not in our way, then make sure that our 3D cursor is in the center of the grid by pressing Shift plus S and then hitting cursor to center. This makes sure that everything's in the center, and since we'll be using a mirror modifier, it has to be in the center. Next, press numpad 7 to get into top view, and make sure you're in orthographic view by pressing numpad 5. That way no perspective changes will affect the view of your model. Pressing numpad 5 changes back and forth between orthographic and perspective, but for now we want orthographic so that we can model equally, again since we're using mirror modifiers. Lastly, make sure your T toolbar is open by pressing T, and make sure that the operator panel is expanded by pressing this plus button up here, and that way we will be able to change things as we're working on them. To start off modeling, we're going to create a UV sphere. So press Shift plus A and add a mesh UV sphere. Turn down the segments to about 12 and turn down the rings to an equal number, so we'll hit 12. Now you can see that we have the basic shape of our pumpkin. Of course, pumpkins aren't completely spherical like this, so we're going to be doing some modifications to turn it into more of a pumpkin-y look. First, however, we're going to be setting up our mirror modifier. Tab into edit mode by pressing Tab and 6 if you have pie menus enabled, or just pressing tab, or you can use the drop down menu here, and we're going to delete 3/4 of our pumpkin. Make sure that X-ray mode is disabled so that we can select all the way through our model, and then press A to deselect all. Now using the box selection tool with B, select the top half of your pumpkin, hit X for delete, and delete all these vertices. Now do the same with the left half of our circle. Again, hit X and delete all vertices. We now have 1/4 of a sphere. So to change that, we're going to add a modifier. That is the little wrench icon over here in your properties panel. So press the wrench icon and add a modifier. We are going to add a mirror modifier. By default, these are the settings. Make sure that X is selected and Y is selected. That way we get our entire pumpkin or sphere back, but we only have to work on 1/4, which is the quarter that is outlined, and it will be repeated in all the other sides. Also make sure merge and clipping is enabled. That way any changes that we make will connect all the vertices and lines together. So make sure merge and clipping is enabled. By using a mirror modifier, this is going to save us 1/4 of modeling time, since the pumpkin is generally quite symmetrical, and that way we'll have to sculpt less. Now move to front view by pressing numpad 1 and select all by pressing A. Now we're going to scale our pumpkin in only the Z direction. This will squish it a little bit. So press S to scale, then press Z so that we're only scaling along Z. Bring it down a little bit to give it a little bit of a pumpkin shape. This is just, like I said, squishing it. Something like that. To give it more of a pumpkin-y look, first enable proportional editing, which is this little button down here. You can also press the O button. We're going to enable it. Then we're going to select just the middle faces, and we're going to scale it along the Z axis again. See how this really changes the shape? This changes the shape proportionally so that other parts of the object are edited as well, not just the pieces that we've selected. So scale it just a little bit up to give it again that pumpkin-y look. Now it's less of a sphere and more of a squashed, flattened kind of sphere look. Our next step is to add another modifier. We're going to add what's called a subdivision surface, or more commonly a subsurf modifier, and this will smooth out our pumpkin by adding extra geometry. So let's hide our mirror modifier by pressing the arrow button, and in our subsurface modifier, let's change the views. You can see if we go back to 0, that's our original view. Going up by 1 smooths a little bit more, 2 a little bit more, all the way to 6, and it's perfectly smooth. We don't want that. It really bogs down your computer and it's too much for our needs. Let's just go with 2 for now. We can still get a completely smooth look by enabling smooth shading. To do that, go back into object mode and making sure you're in the top tools button, select smooth. Now you can see everything's smoothed out and we don't see the faces anymore. Let's add a quick placeholder material so that we know that this is a pumpkin. Go to the materials tab, which is this kind of shiny looking sphere here, and click either the plus button to add a new slot, or since it's our first one, just hit new. Let's call it orange dot matte. This is how I name my materials. I always add dot matte for materials and dot text for textures. So orange dot matte. Drop down the preview and you will see what it looks like if it was rendered. And for now we're just going to have a surface diffuse shader. Diffuse basically says what color is this object. We're going to change it to a nice bright orange. Something like that. It's a nice pumpkin-y color. However, it hasn't changed in our 3D view. To do that, drop down the settings bar and drag the color down there. This is something that people don't know, that you can drag and drop colors from one to another. This saves you time. Now that our shape is orange, we can definitely tell that it's going to be a pumpkin. To sculpt the pumpkin's ridges, we need to add in some edge loops. So now let's tab back into edit mode so that we can add the ridges to our pumpkin. So to sculpt the pumpkin's ridges, we need to add in some edge loops. If you don't know how to do this, what you do is you press Ctrl R, and you can see this pink line comes up. That's where your edge loop is going to be. You can do it vertically or you can do it horizontally. We're going to do vertically since we need our ridges to be vertical. So just to explain edge loops quickly, you use the mouse wheel and scroll up and down to add as many as you like, but we only need 1 for now. Then you click to enable it, and then you can drag it around to where you want it. This is great for adding extra detail to your models. We want it right in the center though, so right click to leave it in the center. Now that we've added in a loop cut there, let's add one more, again right in the center. So I click it in with left click and then right click to make sure it's in the center. And then one more at the very end. Again, Control R, left click, and then right click to make sure it's in the center. These 3 edges here are going to become the ridges of our pumpkin, and they will be mirrored all the way around. So if you aren't already, make sure you click on line select mode down here at the bottom of the 3D view. This will allow us to select our edge loop cuts. While holding down the Alt button, right click on one of our edge loop cuts, and you will see that it selects it all the way around. Remember that loop cuts go all the way around when you make them. At this point, if you haven't done so already, make sure to disable proportional editing, or else it's going to do some funny things. So disable it. Make sure it's gray and not blue at the bottom. So we want to scale our edge loop cuts in a little bit to create the ridges. Do this by pressing S to scale and scale it in just slightly. You can see that it creates a nice smooth ridge. Now deselect everything by pressing A, and again we're holding down Alt, right click on our next ridge loop cut and scale it in again We don't have to be precise here because a pumpkin, of course, is not perfect. Do this again to our last one, and we have our basic pumpkin with ridges. As you can see here, that's the basic look that we will be getting. I can turn off X-ray view here to give you a little bit better look. So that's what a basic shape of our pumpkin is going to look like. Now we want to add in more edge loop cuts to sculpt our pumpkin a little bit more. Use your artistic license here as well as following me. The more randomness the better. You can slide edge loops around by pressing Control E to bring up the edges menu and then go to edge slide. So with one of my edge loop cuts selected, again I go Control E to bring up the edge menu and then edge slide. As you can see, we can change where this edge is, but we're going to leave it where it was by right clicking. That was just an example. So as I said, we're going to add in some more loop cuts to sculpt our pumpkin a little more. So deselect what we have and hit Control R to add in more vertical loop cuts. We're going to want them, again, random, but as you can see, if we move them closer to an edge, it really makes the edges sharp, but the further away, the smoother they become. This is because of our subsurf modifier. So if you wanted to make your ridges very sharp, you'd move it in very, very close to your current ridge. So that's what we're going to do. So let's add a few in. I have a hotkey for this, so I'm going to do this very quickly. There, as you can see, we've now got a more of a sculpted look to our pumpkin. If it's too much, we can always adjust this later by turning up our subsurf modifier levels or by deleting some of the edge loops. We want to apply our mirror modifier now so that we can work with the entire mesh and give it more randomness to give it a more organic, natural look. Click on the modifier, which is the wrench again, and expand the mirror modifier panel and hit apply. First, make sure you're in object mode and then hit apply. Now we have one entire mesh. If we go into edit mode again, as you can see, everything was mirrored equally, and now we can play with any single part that we want and it's not mirrored. This will allow us to create organic and natural changes to our pumpkin. Let's go into top view mode by pressing numpad 7 and let's create a space for our stem. So now, making sure we're back in vertex selection mode, we can select the center vertex by right clicking on it and hitting X to delete and delete the vertices. This will create a hole in the center of our pumpkin. We can also get rid of these ones by hitting shift and right clicking and then X delete vertices to create more of a somewhat circular hole. To make things easier to work with, turn down our subdivision views to 0 so that we have our exact model data to work with right now, since this gets a little busy in here. You can see, however, that it's not quite a circle, it's a star, and this is where our stem is going to emit from, so we need to merge some vertices. So I'm going to start with these extreme points, so holding down shift, select 3 at a time, and then hit Alt M for the merge menu, and merge at center. I'm going to do that over here where we have 3 more. Alt M, merge at center. Here's a trick. If you select 3 more, you can do the same thing that you just did by doing the repeat command, which is Shift R. And as you can see, it automatically did the merge command. So let's just continue. I'm going to use the repeat command to make it easy. So we've cleaned up those extreme points. Now I need to make this more circular-like. So we're going to continue merging. Actually, I'm going to delete these points completely to try to get as circular as possible. So just hit X for the delete and vertices and continue. I'm going to hold down shift to do this all at once. I forgot to merge those. We'll delete those vertices. We're starting to get more circular. Alright, so let's delete these points that are really pointing out. And let's merge all these. We're going to merge it a different way though. You first select the outer one, and then you hold down shift and right click on the last one. Then you hit Alt M to go to your merge menu and merge at last. So that'll merge it to the last one. Or you can do it the other way around and just choose that first. The menu's pretty intuitive, and I'm going to continue doing this. So if we turn up our levels, you can see that it's somewhat circular, but you can see that it's still very, very pointy. So we're going to apply a smooth command. Let's turn our subdivisions back to 0 so we have our exact geometry that we're working with. And let's go and carefully select the entire loop. We'll go into top view, we'll hold down Alt, and we'll right click. We'll make sure we're in edge mode. We'll right click with Alt held down and select the entire loop. Now with our loop selected, there's many different ways to do this. For example, you can open up your W specials menu and you can hit smooth a few times, and then you can scale it in. That's what I'll be doing since that smooths out the top a bit. Or you can also just do a simple merge at center, and that'll bring it into a terminating point. And from there you could create a separate stem on your own and just simply have it going through there, but that wouldn't look as realistic in my opinion. And having terminating points like this, if you turn up subdivisions, creates very harsh, sharp edges. So let's do it the original way, to what we figure would be a good stem size. And it's not quite circular, but that's because we have all the peaks here. To smooth out the top of the pumpkin some more, we could use our brush mode. Again, make sure that X-ray mode isn't on. Deselect all, use your brush mode, and select some of the top here. And hit W and smooth. And this will smoothen out the top of your pumpkin a bit. But now you can see that if we deselect and turn up our subdivision views, smooths out the top a little bit. Gives it more realistic because the curves don't go all the way to the top. They kind of smooth out at the top and terminate. And you could go in and play with the vertices a little bit and bring them, down, for example, like so. And that would smooth it out even more if you just brought it down along the Z-axis. Or you could go scale Z0, and that'll flatten it out completely. Using that trick again, I'm going to do this to create a little more circular shape. We're going to go scale Z with our edge loop selected, We're going to go scale Z0, and that's just an easy way to flatten out any kind of selection. So there you go, that's our basic pumpkin shape, and this is where the stem's going to come out. So now we're going to duplicate this edge loop here. We're going to hit Control D, and as you can see, that made a duplicate of it. Now right click so that it stays in the original position, but we want the stem to be a separate object. So hit P to bring up the separate menu and separate by selection. Now we have sphere 001. And if we go into edit mode and select all and grab, you can see that it's now its own separate selection, but we have it at the original point. So let's create our stem and extrude up. This is going to give us a line. We have a lot of lines since I created so much geometry here. Anyway, extrude up along the Z-axis a little bit, and then do it again. Extrude up along the Z-axis, maybe a little bit less, and then scale a little bit. Actually, scale inwards. We'll make this funky looking. And then just continue that, scaling inwards till you get to a point that you like. You can curve it if you would like. For example, I could grab along the X, I could curve it a little bit and then scale it in, because obviously no pumpkin has a perfectly straight stem. And then extrude up along the Z, and then scale it in almost all the way to the center, extrude up just a little bit, and then we're going to merge at center, and that'll just close it off. So that gives you kind of a basic stem. So now if we up the subdivision on it 2 or 3 times, and on our sphere 2 or 3 times, you can see we have our basic pumpkin shape. The stem, however, of course, is not. It's saying that this is a direct copy of the material. So we're gonna press the 2 to make a copy of it, and now you'll see it's just a copy and there's no longer a second user using it. So now we have 2 separate textures. I'm gonna rename this to stem.mat, and instead of orange, we're just gonna make it a brown. And again, in the viewport, you can drag the color down so that we can see what it looks like. And there you go. Again, use your artistic license. For example, I might scale this along the z-axis a little bit higher, then grab it along the z-axis and have it line up again, just to give it some sort of look. Now let's give it a little bit of a twist. So you can do this 2 ways. You can do it manually by selecting just a certain part of it and then rotating it. You'd have to be in X-ray mode. So if you turn on X-ray mode down here and then box select just the top part, you can rotate it along the y-axis, the z-axis, and you can spin it to create twisting. And you now have somewhat of a twisted kind of organic looking thing. So now we have our basic pumpkin. Now let's cut some holes in it. From the front view, in object mode, hit Ctrl A and add a new mesh plane. Go into edit mode with vertice select enabled. Deselect all with A and then choose the top 2 vertices, and we're going to Alt M to merge at center, and this will create a triangle. Hit A twice to select all and scale it down to the size of your eyes. Now move it forward so that we can see it. I'm going to be showing you how to cut out sections of your pumpkin. So let's give this triangle some depth first. With everything selected, extrude, and just give it some depth. That way we know that it will cut out everything, since our pumpkin has some depth. So in front view, kind of align it to where you want your holes to be. That might be a little big. I'm going to scale it down. And I'm going to show you another modifier. So now that we have our triangle and the size that we want and the position that we want, let's add a boolean modifier. This is just one way of many ways to cut holes and things. We're going to do an intersect operation, so choose intersect, and the object that we're going to do it on is the sphere, which is obviously our pumpkin. So select sphere. Now this does a lot of calculating, so it will slow your computer down. Now that it's done that, hit apply. Again, this will take a second. Now if we drag this with the G button, you can see that it's created a whole new mesh with a hole in it. Right click to leave that where it is and delete our original pumpkin. Now you can see that we have our original mesh, but it has a hole in it, and the only thing we've lost is the material. So we can go back to the materials tab by selecting our new object, which is now called plane, and under materials we can just add our orange back. So there you go, we now have a pumpkin with a hole in it, and you can repeat this with the other shapes. So there you have it, our finished pumpkin with holes cut into it and a basic stem. I think it's a little ugly, but it can be worked on, obviously. Thanks for watching from the team here at BlenderTech.com. Again, that's BlenderTech.com. Happy Halloween. If you enjoyed this video and learned something, please like it and don't forget to subscribe for more Blender, Unity 3D, and coding videos. We try to add from 3 to 10 a day. If you disliked this video for some reason, please leave a comment or email the team at info@blendertech.com as to what you did not like and what we can improve on. We also take requests for tutorials, so let us know what you want or want more of. See you next time, and remember, create your way.